G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and I'm joined with a very special guest. Someone hasn't been in the podcast I don't think for over a year, but I've been very lucky to grab them while they're in town. Welcome back to the show, Checkers. How are you, mate?
Yeah, it has been a long time since I've been here. Obviously spent a bit of time here.
Yeah.
But yeah, a long time since we've done the Keeper League together, so that's good. And we're keen to be back. Sorry about my voice.
No, that's all right.
We're both coming off gather round weekend. We're both coming off not a lot of sleep, a lot of footy. So yeah, the head is sore, but the voice is probably a bit sorer.
So what does gather round look like for you? Because you generally have a lot of things on. I always see your face plastered on events and stuff like that. So like you've got heaps of gigs on. How much of it is like sorted out through you guys, and how much is it like AFL endorsed or just like companies that are kind of around a bit?
Yeah, interesting. I get asked that actually a lot.
Yeah.
We did a live show yesterday, which was fantastic to do when you've got zero voice.
So that was the drive? The
drive next door to Adelaide Oval. So that was through the AFL, which was a handy little gig to finish the weekend. And although I would have loved to have been on the hill for Port Adelaide St Kilda, they're my two favourite teams.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, just cool to be like put alongside some of the names they had on that stage over the weekend. So
I think Dan Does Footy did it for the Carlton game.
So
like they kind of got people that support those teams to do the watch along, right?
Yeah, made sure they weren't in the stadium crying when the team won a watch. Yeah. Shep Mates were on there and the DMAs and Ollie Gill and the Tag podcast. So there's a few good names on there. So I was like, that's pretty cool that we've been like acknowledged in that same circle.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, we just had stacks of work on. If you scroll through our Insta, there's probably a lot of brand deals and stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if some people have unfollowed us over the weekend because there's a lot of paid promos in there. But we won't have a lot of work between now and finals. It's just how footy season works. You know, it's the build up to gather round, and then people sort of tune in and out of footy as they please, and we lose a little bit of interest, especially that mid-season slump. So we got to make a bit of money this weekend so that we can afford to keep traveling around the country. We can afford to come back for the showdowns. Just making sure we can squeeze as much in as we can this week. As much fun, but as much work as well.
Yeah, I get what you mean. You played in the slowdown as well. As I like playing against some of the legends out there.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just driven from the Barossa and we'd driven over from Melbourne, so my hamstrings and calves were as cooked as they could be.
Yeah.
Lined up on Andrew McLeod, was running around with Hamish Harlett, Charlie Dixon. It was good fun. There was a few old Daniel Motlop, one of my all-time favourite people. So
yeah,
actually caught up with him a few times over the weekend. Mott's, he's probably a busier man than anyone.
Yeah,
so.
he's a good dude. I've met him a couple of times as well. Speaking of like your hamstrings, I reckon I woke up on Sunday morning where I reckon I've pulled a calf muscle. And I reckon I've tweaked my hamstring just from standing up and walking around on all day hill. On the hill.
It'll get you. It'll get the better of you.
Absolutely will.
Ankles, knees, calves, hamstrings, awareness is high on the hill.
It shows how good Nick I am. But just before we get into the show, gather around. Such a great weekend. I went to the DT Talk live show on the Friday. I know you would have loved to have been there.
Would have loved to have been
again,
there, yeah.
You've already got so many commitments on. I just want to say it was just fantastic to meet so many listeners. Like, more and more each year, I think, you know, as you go on, I think we're 8 or 9 years in now to this podcast. It's like more people jump on. So there's just more people to meet, more people to talk to. And yeah, it's just great to see everyone. Like even just people like, can I buy you a beer for all the work you do? And even though, you know, I was sorted for beers, didn't need it, but it's just, I do appreciate that kind of kindness coming from the community and stuff like that. So it was just great to meet so many people. And I guess while we're on the thank yous as well, like, a listener named Will, he messaged me during last week and said, would I like to join them in their hospitality box for the Essendon Melbourne game? And went and joined them for the day. Had beers with them all day. Just turned out to be a ripping bunch of lads. It was kind of like we all, like, by the end of the day, it was like we had all known each other for like years. You know what I mean? Like we ended up back at one of their houses. Like,
they knew your voice, but you only just read in their faces. I get you. Yeah.
And when someone starts feeding me beers, I just become their best friend instantly. So it was just great to meet those guys as well. And I guess a bit of a funny story, and I'll mention this on the podcast. So my good mate Paddy. All right, I actually met him a couple of years ago at Gather Round, and we've kind of caught up most Gather Rounds, and he got a bit shitty last week, or his league mates were giving him shit because last year I referred to him as a listener. and not a friend. So, Paddy, I just wanted to shout out, mate. You are a friend. Don't worry, and I'm sure your league mates won't give you any shit about this either. So,
I'll give a few shout outs to our listeners, Louis, Hayden, Doss. I'll give a few shout outs to Geordie DeSena.
Yeah, listen to Geordie DeSena. All these listeners out there. Yeah, thank you for listening.
You do mention the boys invited the box and the events, and I didn't get to catch all of them, but definitely on the hill I saw a fantasy creator community there. So it was Doss and Louis and a lot of the boys from a lot of the podcasts.
Yeah,
just dominating the back of the hill.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing that was missing. Like, because I was like in these sort of stuff, I missed catching up with a lot of the community. But like I was sitting with like Geordie, Lemon, Carl from Pod and stuff like that. So, but it's you know what it's like. Gather round's a hard weekend to catch up with everyone. So,
it is, but it was good to see the fantasy community getting together. I mean, they obviously would be messaging nonstop, the group chats and the podcast chats. And, but to see them all, Louis was like, "Oh, I just met this bloke for the first time. I've been on this guy's pod this many times, and I've only just met him tonight."
Yeah, that's actually happened a few times as well. Like even like Selby, never met Selby before, so it was like good to catch up with him and meet him as well. So bits and pieces like that. Just a bit of a PSA before we get into the show. The website will probably be a little bit slower to update. I actually did manage to smash out the Wave Wire podcast. I haven't uploaded it yet, but I'll do that straight after we finish recording this, so that will come out in time. But like I've got to edit this, do all the socials, write the articles, that sort of stuff. And I usually do that over the weekend, but it's been a big weekend, so I'm a little bit behind. So just letting people know, please go easy on me this week. Don't be jumping down. The other thing is as well, like I haven't found like, okay, so the waffle stats last year were all on the AFL website, so it was a really easy place for me to get them and analyse them. They haven't been added to the AFL website this season, so I'm still finding a source. So I'm about a week behind on getting the waffle stats up, but I'll find a way to get it done this week, and I'll get the waffle stats up on the website. But VFL and Samful are there, and I'll try to sort out the waffle ones these weeks. Before we get into the show, just thank you to the Gold members: Reginald Cooper, Zach Shinnick, McLean Kelly, Matthew Bowditch, Stephen Mann, Ben Goodwin, Gareth Van der Elst, Leo Chan, Warwick Kent, Jack Waterman, not Jake Waterman, Jack Waterman, and Matthew Connell. Thank you to those Gold members who have signed up recently. Basically, I can't do the show without members supporting me. I can't find the time to do everything without having to take a couple of days off to do all the content and do the podcast and all the planning, plus, watching all the games over the weekend, usually, anyway, when I'm not, in corporate boxes and ending up at people's houses. But anyway, so thank you to those members who do support the show and give me the time to do all this stuff each week. It's greatly appreciated. But meeting so many of you over the weekend as well, like I've never felt more appreciated. So absolutely loved it, and thank you so much for catching up and saying good day over the weekend. Anyways, let's get into some of the round review. Adelaide Crows versus Carlton. What did you make of this game?
What did I make of this game? I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't watch a whole lot of football this weekend. I've definitely looked at the stats. Definitely checked into my fantasy team. I've seen the clips. I've seen highlights. I was at this game.
Oh yeah, same.
Couldn't tell you a heap. At the back of the hill when you've got Louis and Doss in your ear, just talking non-stop. No, it was really me talking non-stop to them. Yeah. Wasn't really paying attention to the footy. I did see it was raining. That's what I made of the game. It was very, very wet game. So I don't know what to take off some of these stats. I mean, Rochelle was freak mode, which is great.
Yeah, that was very good, actually.
Just fleeced someone in one of my keeper leagues. I mean, I don't know if it's a fleece. He thinks he's won the trade, but I traded away Archie Roberts for Rochelle. Yeah. Thinking Archie Roberts probably going to be, a defender. There's heaps of them. But
get a
forwards. They're hard to find. And Rochelle, I think he's now primo forward. So.
Yeah, I don't mind that. It's not a bad shout, actually. I will preface this one as well. Like, a lot of the games, like, it's very hard to watch a game of football when you've literally been drinking since midday and remember anything that happened. So, that was probably the Hawthorn Western Bulldogs game. But for this game, at least, I sat in my seats. I knew what the weekend was going to be like. So I didn't have a beer at the footy, actually, and watched most of this game. So we can talk about this one a bit. The first one I want to talk about is Sam Berry, 93 points. Had a lot of touches early, then kind of slowed down. I think he's kind of stepped up as their number 2 at midfield behind Dawson. Saligo's really dropped off this season, and Berry's kind of taken up the slack, don't you think?
Yeah, big time. Saligo was averaging, 35 touches in the first 5 games of last year. We thought he was going to be the next massive accumulating midfield, but he's playing out in the wing, and he's had his heart issues, they've said in the media.
Yeah, so that's the thing, yeah.
It just hasn't looked like the Saligo of old. I don't know whether that's health-related. I don't know whether he just had an interrupted pre-season and they're just warming him back into it.
Yeah.
So maybe it might be one where Saligo in the back half of the year is, ultra gun and we need to trade him in. But
but for now, it kind of looks like it's...
Sam Berry. Well, in the past, Sam Berry's been great at getting clearances and tackling, but not a massive accumulator. But he started accumulating the last few weeks. Like 29 touches in the wet. I wonder if that was because it was wet and quite sloppy, and he plays pretty good on the ground.
Yeah, he's done it in dry games this year, though, as well. So
he's fine. He's starting to find the footy a little bit more. He's normally a guy who has like 8 clearances but 15 touches. So to get 29 touches is we're starting to see some trending to him actually being a solid pick.
Well, he's kind of adding on to those tackle numbers that he's kind of known for as well, which is like a good floor for him to build his scoring on. So, yeah, definitely he's getting to almost too good for the podcast range because there's people picking him up left and right and centre. He just needs to kind of score a bit more consistently, that's all. Wayne Miller, speaking of getting more consistent, he's on the 2G 4P bubble. He scored 85 points on the weekend. I think it was round 1, a lot of people were, opening round or something like that, people were just jumping on, after round 1, people were jumping on because he had a big round 1 score and then he stunk it up the next week and everyone was kind of, writing him off filthy at him. But then he's kind of been consistent ever since. Like I think he's done a couple 80s now. Feels like he's probably taking most of the kickouts now. I know Worrell does kind of take a few as well, but Worrell probably was playing a little bit more lockdown in this game as well. And yeah, like I said, main kick intaker with 5. I think he could be kind of pushing to that next level, even though he's like, 27, 28
He's been
now.
around, he feels like he's been around forever.
Yeah.
He's only like 27 or 28 years old.
I think it more so feels like he hasn't played that much because he's been so injured his whole career. You know what I mean?
But in my head, it feels like Wayne Miller was around for the footy park days. But no, he's definitely sneaking under the radar a lot. If this was if it was a different club, if it wasn't Wayne Miller, if this was a younger kid, I think everyone would be raving about his scores.
Yeah.
But because of his injury history, because of how little he's played over the last few years, people are a bit wary maybe to jump on.
Yeah.
Man, he's got that Brodie Smith role locked in. I know Brodie didn't play a lot of footy last year, but he is taking kick-ins and he's very good at running up and getting the hand pass off wherever he kicks it to. So Worrell's, more of that kick mark lockdown guy. And I think Mark Keane's out of the side. I wonder if that will affect things when they get their defensive stocks back.
More of a key defender. I think it probably just takes.
But if it changes the dynamics where Worrell can free up a little bit, it could be one to watch. But for now, with no Keane in the side and how they're playing, he's looking like Brodie Smith of 2017.
Yeah, that is a fair point, actually. Yeah, just the kick inside of things. So that could actually affect things. But at the moment, he's doing well. Alex Neil-Bullen had the 84 points. I actually I met his mum on Saturday, and like the other, because she knew someone in that corporate box from the Melbourne days, like Melbourne supporter type thing, and then the other boys are saying, this guy does a podcast, he talks about footy, and then she's like, well, what do you say about my son on there? And I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but I said in fantasy, he's not a superstar, but he's just a real solid contributor. You know what I mean? Is that fair to say that?
That's pretty fair.
Yeah, good. Because he's probably one of those players that's a better real footballer than he is a fantasy player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder if players have that opinion of themselves, whether they know these things. Like maybe in real life, Neil Bullen's a great contributor to the side. He means a lot to the side.
Yeah.
But in fantasy terms, he's not dishing out tons. He has to know in his own head, as a fantasy player, I'm a 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
As a player, maybe I'm a good leader and I do good things on the field. So
I can go on the midfield when they need me, that sort of stuff. Anyway, so I think Neil Bullen just he's a handy forward own. He's just never going to be a too good for the podcast kind of guy, but he's just a solid contributor.
He has those weeks that really just suit him and he kicks a few goals or gets up the ground and has 25 touches.
Yeah, correct.
He has weeks where he's not doing heaps.
Yeah.
A little bit of a roller coaster ride, but pretty handy overall.
I think so. Yeah, good way to describe him. I think his mum actually appreciated that opinion of him. I didn't blow smoke. It was fine. Ben Keys had 78 points. Keeper League Zone, I think our first guest we ever had on this podcast. Well, sitting with mate Armsy, he backed him for 2+ goals and 3+ goals on Sportsbet because he was due. And I think that's a very good way to describe it. He was just due to do something this week. And coming up a bit of a weaker opposition against Carlton, kicked a few goals and it was good to see him get his score up.
I thought he might suit the Carlton sort of style. They don't really have someone that would man up that great on him. And I thought he sort of penciled him in to have an okay game. Yeah.
So he'll probably do nothing again for weeks now. But he was due and well done.
Which sucks because I got him in all of my leagues.
A lot of people do, don't worry. Mark Pitnet. So the ground announcer called it out as Mark Pitnet. Because you know, at Gather Round, it's not the usual ground announcers.
Yeah. It's not Jared Walsh.
Yeah, I don't actually know who half of them are.
Or Tomo or Callum Ferguson.
Mariana from the Crows. It's all random people. So they called him Pitten Yet. So I'm not sure if he's changed the way he wants his name pronounced, or we've been saying it wrong the whole time, or who knows. But he had 104 points.
Pittenay?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Pittenay used to get called a bit. 104 points he had. I think if you drafted him, you'd be pretty happy, right? He's had 2 good weeks in a row now, and he could be 2G4P.
He's definitely 2G4P. I've got Toby Nankervis sitting in a league, and I was trying to get. He was on the waiver last week, Pitner, and I missed out just because of the waiver wire list, and I'm really upset about it because he's playing some very good footy, not just in terms of fantasy, but in terms of real life.
He's always been an effective ruckman, and like hit-outs to advantage, he's always been through the roof. I know that. It's just he never really had the fantasy game, but now he's kind of got no competition.
No competition. He's got the weight off his shoulders. He's always had to fight. He had to fight at Hawthorn to get a spot. He had to fight with TDK to get a spot. He's kicking goals this year, which we've just never seen from him. Like, he's just moving around the ground a lot more and getting a lot more of the footy. So he used to just be the sort of like Sean Darcy tap ruck.
Yeah.
Now he's actually following up and getting 15, 20 touches a week. So.
Yeah. Hats off to Pitner. He's playing some good footy this season and probably will be too good for the podcast next week. Nick Haynes came into the side, scored 84 points. A lot of people jumping on him on the waiver wire because they see this guy come in, 84 points. But like, Wiedering and Dean are out of the side. I don't see him sticking around for too long. And he didn't play a great game, really.
You can't really hold Nick Haynes over Wiedering as well.
Yeah.
So if Wiedering's back from his would he have a bit of concussion in the back, or
it
could be a bit of a longer one. But Wiedering is the number one picked for Carlton at the moment, I reckon.
It's just, I don't think it's very sustainable. Like, he's probably the 3rd or 4th in line for a key defensive role down there. So I don't expect him to hold his spot. Ollie Hollands, just want to mention him. He only added the 73 points, but he was back to the wing this week, and owners, I think, he was on the bubble this week. Everyone's getting really excited that he was back on half-back playing, moves back to the wing.
I wonder if that was affected by the Haynes in for Wiedering.
Yeah, it might have been.
Sort of
defender coming out.
Haynes a bit more of a running halfback / key defender.
Might be more useful up the ground.
It's also wet, so I think Hollands had 10 marks last week when he scored his ton, and he had 4 on the weekend. So don't get too disappointed. If you're a Hollands owner, I think you're cheering for Wiedering to come back in the side.
Yeah, I think so. Onto the Collingwood versus Fremantle game. Now, this was definitely one I don't remember a lot about.
I was just going to bring up, I don't know if Riley Thilthorpe is 2G4P.
He is, because he averaged over 80 last year.
I was going to say, Crows have a very handy fixture, so if you want to jump on a key forward, Fogarty, Thilthorpe.
Maybe a captain or a VC option over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I was just looking at their fixture coming up. And
makes sense. They've had a tougher start.
They've had a very tough start to the fixture. I think they've got Richmond. And they play Richmond and Port twice in the run home now. So
yeah, beautiful. There could be some good scores coming up that way. Collingwood versus Fremantle. This was a crazy game. So, like, Isaac Quainer had 110 points for the 10 marks. And then because there was only three behind, so only 3 kickouts to have over the night. And then Braden Maynard had 101 points, also had 9 marks. And a lot of these games at Adelaide Oval, defenders had shitload of marks. But, like, these guys kind of got involved in the chip around, which, like, Dan Houston just went completely missing in this game. Like,
just what he scored 50 on.
Yeah, and only had, like, I think it was like less than 100, or very close to 100 metres gained or something like that. Like, nothing. Like,
just wet. And what were they doing? Just playing trying to hold the ball.
Absolutely no idea.
But, it was
I can't
pelting down in that game. So
it
was like, that was like a torrential rain.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they had that many marks. I mean, they would have been all 15-metre kicks. And this game would have been terrible.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that was like so low scoring this game as well. So I don't know if that's much to read into. It could have just been, it doesn't make sense because I was so wet.
Collingwood used to play that chip around game. We haven't seen it for a while. The Jack Crisp sort of era was great for the chip around. Jeremy Howe, I didn't realise there was that many marks taken. It was,
well, mainly just between these two guys. But generally when a defender has over 10 marks, they score pretty well. So it happened, but they were the only two really because, like I said, like someone like Dan Houston just did nothing in this game. So it was a bit strange. Angus Anderson is probably the biggest talking point of this week. Had a very good debut with his 92 points. Had 8 CBAs, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there was only 16 for the game. So, he had 50% of them, which is pretty good for a first gamer. And he was the kind of next in line behind Dacos and Pendlebury. Had the 6 tackles, but like that's the kind of player he is. I don't think it matters because it was a wet game.
In the VFL, he's been putting up big tackle numbers.
And he did last year in a sample as well. Like he was a big, he's a hard-nosed type of midfielder.
I feel like Collingwood really need a midfielder like this. Well, they want Ned Long to sort of be this guy, but maybe he isn't quite this guy. They wanted Tom Mitchell to sort of be this guy, but maybe at AFL level he wasn't really the grunty. They've got Dacos and they've got Pendlebury and they use Crisp, who all pretty much play a lot of outside footy. And, Dacos is well known for not getting contested marks or contested disposals. So
some people will fight you over that.
Yeah.
Some Collingwood supporters mainly, but they probably fight anyone.
You know what I mean? Like they're quite out. They're great at what they do on the outside, but this is a guy who's going to make opposition midfielders scared. He's going to be the stopper. He's going to lay lots of tackles. And he goes very, very hard at the ball. So if he's on the deck fighting for it and flicking out the Dacos, that's great for the Pies.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like you said, I think they are crying out for a player like this. They've tried so many players in this role, someone who can support Dacos essentially and get the ball out to him and kind of do that, grunt work. And I think he could be that guy. So I think he stays in the team for a few weeks now. And
definitely. I think that was a great debut. The Hill was going crazy. He kicked a goal.
Because he's an Adelaide boy as well.
The hometown. It was Isaiah Dudley and Angus Anderson kicked some goals, and the Hill was going nuts for him.
Yeah.
And I don't reckon any of the people on the Hill that are going nuts were Freo or Collingwood fans.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get behind the Adelaide boys.
Yeah, love that. So anyway, Angus Anderson, go grab him off the waiver wire this week. Carl Warner had 82 points. Thing is, like this week, and there's not a lot to talk about Freo. I'm not allowed to talk about anyone in this game, really, just because of the conditions. But like, thing is about Freo, like we were talking up Collingwood giving up heaps of points to defenders last week, and I had Heath Chapman as my streamer of the week because I thought he would be the guy that would get the points. But the correct answer was Carl Warner. So
I just looking at the marks. Warner had 7 marks. Luke Ryan had 10 marks. So they were playing chip kick in both their D50s the whole game.
So that must be a Collingwood thing where they just allow teams to do that.
It was a very defensive style game, probably because of the rain. You didn't want a team to get a jump. We've been seeing this year.
It's so hard to get back.
So hard to get if the team got a 4-goal lead in that sort of rain, you're not getting it back. So.
Yeah. No, so that's pretty much all from that game. Move on to the North Melbourne versus Brisbane game. I'll preface this: I didn't see a second of this game.
I'm going to agree. I've only seen.
I was in that corporate box
Trembath highlights and kicking snags.
Well, I turned up at for that box at 11:30. The game only started, I think, 12:45, so we get a full hour beforehand, like maximise it. So before this game even started. That's kind of what. I was supposed to go to this game, but I usually go to the North Melbourne game over gather round because I have a few friends that are involved at North Melbourne. But they didn't come across this year, so I didn't go. But Cooper Trembath is the first one on my list. 84 points. He's been very impressive so far. I say he only kicked 2 goals in this game, but I think that brings him up to 19 goals from about 8 games now.
He's averaging almost 3 goals a game.
Yeah, so. Ridiculous. He's doing jobs in the ruck with Cherry out. My thoughts are though, 2 weeks ago when Cherry did have the brain fade and wiped the blood on, was it McGrath? What was it?
Andy McGrath.
Can't remember who it was. They played Cherry and Coleman Jones in that team together, and Trembath too. And it was like Coleman Jones was the ruck forward type thing. But I think Trembath, they might continue with Trembath as the backup ruck and maybe drop Coleman Jones in a couple of weeks when Cherry does come back. So it might continue this kind of scoring run, don't you think? I just wonder if he's so handy up forward and it seems to take a bit of weight off.
Zerha's been playing second fiddle to Larkey for ages, but it allows Zerha to get to third tall or Paul Curtis to get to the third sort of tall forward that can take a big grab and takes a bit of heat off Larkey. And I think people are going to start noticing this Trembath kid. They're going to start going to him as a forward. So it'll be interesting to see if, do they chuck him in the ruck, like he's saying, to get him, if he starts getting tagged out of the forward line and they start putting tension on him. But he's very good at hitting the scoreboard. He's
definitely.
One of those guys that just knows where the sticks are.
Yeah, and you're right because I think as well they do put a lot of teams do put a lot of focus on Larkey being the captain, and he's had a much quieter year. Probably what we expected really, but and that probably does free up Trembath a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But I do like it with the backup ruck role. He's one of the few that I don't mind if he goes into the midfield and gets a few extra touches. And then I guess speaking of other rucks, again, not a lot of scoring in this game, but Sam Draper had all the too good for the podcast guys went okay. Not a lot of guys that we talk about went well. But Sam Draper had 75 points. North Melbourne over the last few weeks, even with Cherry in the side, have been the easiest ruck matchup of the past 5 rounds. So I kind of did have Draper as one of my streamers this week, even because he's only been averaging 50 or so. Draper also as well is a player that everyone was hot on pre-season just due to the forward status. Probably hasn't been hitting the heights that we probably
just warming back into it. I think. Yeah, coming off the injury, hasn't really been at his best, but he's been showing glimpses that he's going to get there. I think it might be towards the back end of the season. He could be a good downgrade or something like that.
I think so as well. I think he will come good, but I just want to highlight that this was a very easy matchup for Rucks. So that's probably explains why he went so well. Onto the Essendon versus Melbourne game. Did actually end up watching a fair bit of this, even though we were in that box. Archie Roberts is too good for the podcast, but Owners are going to be very happy with him right now.
Zach, if we trade Zach Merritt, get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. He's the next Zach Merritt, man. He's just great at just being a fantasy pick.
Yeah, but it's also like good. Like he was playing the midfield over the first weeks. I don't know what that was about, but it's so much better to see him like off that halfback. Yeah, he does still get up the ground, but like it's way better to see him in that kind of role. And we kind of mentioned before, felt like every game at Adelaide Oval, I didn't actually check the numbers from last night, but every game at Adelaide Oval, it felt like every defender had over 10 marks this weekend. So like this was another one. Like every Essendon, like there was just so much chip around, you know what I mean, in this game. And it kind of worked because they won their first game of the season. And so it's just going to be interesting to see how that evolves. But yeah, Archie Roberts was definitely one that got involved. And we'll talk about a few more in a second. But I just want to talk about Peter Wright as well. 108 points, a bit of a role change because like he was the number one ruck and they sent Blackiston back into defence, and then they had a few other people come into the side, a few of the younger players. I think Archer May was a lot more prominent up forward. There was another guy, and I've forgotten his name because I barely even cited him before. I was actually asking people who he was.
Was it the Edwards?
Yes. Yep. 40, number 44.
45.
Yeah, 45. Yeah.
School teacher.
Yeah, that's the one. He did his ACL last year, apparently. He was up forward, so it kind of allowed Peter Wright to play as that number one ruck. Again, every time we've seen something good come up, we know that there's something on the horizon that's probably going to affect it.
Well, I'm honestly so out of tune with the AFL. Remember, the VFL wasn't on the weekend, was it?
Yeah, so there was no game.
But Nick Bryan the week before played a pretty handy game in the VFL. I was surprised he didn't come in. I really thought they were going to bring him in. But
well, I think the idea is that they'll want to get 2 games into him because I think he was still low tog in that game.
Playing Max Gorn, they always had to change the ruck up. Blackiston would have got murdered just by himself. So.
Yeah, so like Peter Wright may have another week as a ruckman, but I think as soon as Bryan comes back, and he might shoulder it for a bit as well. And Peter Wright's kind of handy. Like last year, I think he had a real stretch where he was going over 80 plus, and I think it's really been affected by them going with Blackiston as the number one. But it looks like Blackiston's going to settle back as a key defender again. So Peter Wright might be a good play for the next few weeks, I think, as they ease Bryan back in. But I think eventually Bryan becomes that number one and there's only pinch hitters going in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like once Bryan's back, you can just pinch hit Peter Wright and Blackiston if you need.
Yeah,
exactly. They're only going to need a C5 to 10 CBAs to pinch hit. It's not going to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Like even with Bryan, you might get 3 weeks while he's adjusting, building up his time on ground, that sort of stuff. So again, it might be a month play for the
especially as a forward, man. There's not a lot of forward options left on waiver wires that are handy that can ton up. So
yeah, correct.
Peter Wright is one who can. They're coming off a win as well, so yeah, I doubt they'll change too much of their structure next week.
Yeah, I agree. Kyle Langford, 103 points. Won't talk about him too much because he's been around for so long. We all know about him. He's just always a value pick. Older player, get cheaper if you're contending. Listed as a forward. Plays up the ground enough to score well, so that's good. Everyone was frothing on the weekend about Jacob Farrow with his 102 points. He's had 2 out of his 3 games now been tons. So he's having a Harry Sheezel start to his career almost, you know what I mean?
You're talking about marks, 12 marks.
Exactly. Yeah, another one of these people that kind of just got heaps.
They were talking about him taking kick-ins and everyone was getting excited about that, but no one's getting excited about these marks. You
just know that a kid like this is going to be a fantasy type, just given his underage pedigree and then just like the role that he has in this team already, and kind of the way that Essendon do play football as well. Like they're a pretty fantasy-friendly team. Last year they were, first few weeks this round they haven't. But then they kind of switched up this week, and now they're back being fantasy friendly and winning a game.
I mean, a team is getting rolled by as much as it is for Archie Roberts to be in his, at 21 years old to be averaging 100 plus.
Yeah,
insane. So yeah, they are very fantasy friendly. Him and Farrow, Roberts, even Andy McGrath, they've got all these fantasy pig type operators off the halfback who like to chip it around a lot too. They're not, they don't really kick it down the line very long.
Yeah.
They play a very good game plan for this fantasy. These halfbacks at Essendon.
Yeah, correct. Ben Mackay will just tip the cap 2 because he got the 98 points. He's not going to be doing that most weeks. Xavier Dersma had 95 points, kicked 2 goals. He's been pushing forward more this season, but found a lot more of the footy this weekend. Probably just a byproduct of being a winning team for a change, I think. So, well, let's let that one play out. Jackson Pryor, he had 89 points. I think he's too good for the podcast. He's been I think he started on the wing. I was playing on the wing at the end of last season, started on the wing this season, but they shifted him back, I think, in round 2. And I think he's gone 80 plus each week since then. So, I don't know. He's on the waiver wire for us. Do you think he's someone worth picking up if he's going
We just spoke about all these Essendon defenders. I will mention they played Melbourne, who historically are one of the worst teams at keeping their ball inside 50. They have the most turnovers inside 50, the worst inside 50 efficiency. So,
100%.
Obviously, this week, all the Essendon defenders were beneficiary of playing Melbourne.
Just having a look here as well, my points averages for and against. Yeah, Melbourne are top 5 easiest teams for defenders to score against for both keys. and medium defenders as well. So it probably does make sense that a fair few of these points went
got
up.
the win and also played an easier side. So their defenders all went off. But
so do we just put Zach Reid down to the exact same
Zach
thing as
Reid
well?
down to the exact same thing. I mean, they're handy to have. The ball's spending a lot of time down in Essendon's D50 normally.
And just having a win, being in control of the game for so long as well was a very different thing for Essendon. Let's just see what happens, because like sometimes a team like this can turn a corner, you know. So, but if they do, then it's going to be fruitful for these guys. But if they don't, it's probably just going to go back to the same as what they do. Anyway, the other one that's probably a bit different from these guys is Elijah Sardis with his 85 points. He came into the side, and I don't think they dropped any mids. They had a real shake-up. Like Andrew McGrath went with a run-with role in the midfield, I'm pretty sure. And then Caldwell seemed to be the one affected by Sardis coming into the side the most. But Caldwell's been down this week as well, but this year as well. So I don't really know. And Caldwell only had the 68% time on ground. Like, something's going on. But Sardis was actually pretty good, and he's on the waiver wire for a lot of people as well. So he's probably one to have a look at.
Such an annoying player, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. VFL, 120 each week, comes in and can barely find the footy.
Or just comes in and doesn't get a time on ground, or plays the weirdest role.
Yeah.
And then he's young and he's a high draft pick. So the amount of people that would have stashed him on their bench, where he's had not played for a year,
because he was like a fantasy friendly like junior as well.
Yeah.
And was it COVID year?
I think maybe the year after.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I mean, I've spent a year with him on my bench going, oh no, he'll come good eventually. He'll get a game eventually. And then you drop him and then someone else puts him on their bench for a year going, oh, he's going to come good.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there'd be 3 people in every league that would have spent a year with Sardis on their bench.
Yeah, definitely.
In these keeper leagues going, I'm not touching him again.
Yeah,
so,
100%.
Someone's going to come benefit. Someone's going to win that, that battle, and he's going to come good of it. Maybe it's now. Hopefully it's now. But yeah, it's just picking the right time.
Well, anyway, yeah, so you're right. Hopefully it is now. But like I said, if he's on your waivers, now's the time you're going to have to jump because he'll be gone by next week, essentially. Jake Lever, like Melbourne barely had the ball in their hands all day, so there wasn't really anyone that scored too well that wasn't too good for the podcast. You had your Cossies and your Max.
What about Tom Sparrow?
Well, Tom Sparrow had 78 points. We actually made him too good for the podcast last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's been putting up some massive scores.
Yeah.
78, sort of a little dip back down. So I wonder what they did. They did lose. So
yeah, I've got Sparrow in a couple of leagues. And I'm taking 78 from every other week.
I just wonder what the opinion was. Whether he's it's a bit of a fraud. He's started the year.
He's had, like I said, he's averaging 80 over the last 4 weeks. Like, so you can kind of take that for now.
He's taken
But actually, no, you're right, because we probably didn't talk about this enough, because last week we were all high in Melbourne. They beat Gold Coast. They're the real deal now.
Yeah.
And then we come out this week and see him lose to Essendon. So maybe it is a cause.
I also wonder if losing to Essendon, we see Trent Rivers come back in the side or someone like that might shift up.
I think Trent Rivers hasn't played a VFL game since.
He's got a knee concern.
Is that what it is?
But they said they're trying to rush him back as quick as they can.
Oh, okay. I thought he was just omitted.
It wasn't put in the injury list. It was Stephen King said in a presser last week. He's got I can't remember the exact word. It might have been unstable knee or something like that.
Okay.
A grumbly knee. That was the word.
A grumbly knee. Okay, then maybe it's not as concerning for him. And then, if that's the case, then maybe there are some concerns for Sparrow.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the loss will shake up their team sheet this week, I reckon. I think you'll see a few dropped and...
Yeah, that's a fair call. The only one is we'll tip the cap to Jake Lever as well. He had 84 points, but yeah, quite a few marks back there. And but yeah, again, not one you're picking. He'll be on the waivers in every comp, I reckon. Sydney versus Gold Coast Suns. Again, didn't see a second of this one. Not over though. We'll just kind of preface. It seems a bit shit for fantasy scoring. It seems like the good inside mids go really well on that deck. And then, so they're all too good for the podcast, and there's just no ball for anyone to score on the outside.
Smaller decks, skinnier decks, you can't play the chip kick game.
Yeah,
it's not good for fantasy.
Boot it up the ground.
Down the line.
Yeah.
I think it's generally a little bit higher scoring as well, in terms of the score line of actual goals and behinds.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we're not seeing a lot of chip kicking around, which is what we want to see in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. The only ones like Matt Roberts, 88 points. He's adjusted to that wing role fine. He scores in that position. It's just he might lose defender status next year.
He's already picked up the mid status this weekend. So, I feel like he's playing full-time wing.
Yeah, correct. Will Graham had the 76 points. He's been good since coming in. My concern is just that, I'm not sure how it works with... Because he's been playing more midfield time, but I'm just not sure how it works with Humphrey and Petrarca back in the side.
Well, Petrarca should be back this week.
Yeah, exactly.
He was meant to be... They were 50-50 for the weekend.
Yeah. So that's what I'm concerned about with him.
I was just looking up to see how Lockie Goulburn. Yeah, I went to that Melbourne Gold Coast game last week, and Graham and Goulburn were very, very impressive on the wings and and off half back. But Goulburn only had the 6 touches, and then
Yeah.
Graham 76. I mean, that's handy, but it's not setting the world on fire.
Yeah, I did preface that last week. Melbourne again, like the easiest team to score against for medium forward. So like I think like Goulburn was starting half forward and pushing up, but it kind of works for those kind of players, I think. So yeah, I wasn't really sold on Goulburn.
There was a lot of chip kicking for him the week before, so maybe he missed out on that at Norwood. Quite skinny oval.
Yeah, maybe.
Just couldn't find the space to find him. So
But yeah, only 2 players for the Gold Coast average. I scored over 80. So yeah, it just highlights Norwood.
It was also wet again that day as well.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, actually, I think the sun came out for about 20 minutes during that game.
Yeah,
so.
it was crazy weather in Adelaide.
Yeah.
It's not normally a city that has a lot of rain and a lot of wind, but it seemed to have it just when everyone didn't need it.
Yeah, especially like last year it was 30 degrees the whole weekend, like for gather round. I remember just like getting sunburnt down in the Barossa Park. But anyway, Hawthorn versus Western Bulldogs. Again, we flagged last week that defenders against Western Bulldogs were going big at the time. And I think for key defenders, Western Bulldogs were like 100% the easiest team to play against. They're giving up like 10 extra points. And for like halfbacks and medium defenders, they're giving up 6 extra points per game to those as well.
They pump the ball in there and they're not good at locking it down. They don't really have a great lockdown forward.
Yeah, correct. So like, even I think Geordie de centre that I said like defenders are going to go well this weekend against Bulldogs, and I think Geordie was like, yeah, Blake Hardwick is a player I'd be streaming this week, and he was the best scorer on the ground, 125 points. So like I think that kind of just highlights this. Like I think Blake Hardwick is the most picked up player off the waivers. It's just funny how reactive some people are. They see 125 points and go bang, yep. But at the same time, like, you've kind of got to, because like they're going to go that week as well if they don't, even if they do go well. So
and the other thing is if he puts 125 up, say he puts a 90 to 100 up next week, he might be able to fleece someone on the trade market.
True. And so, turn him into something better than that, that you just got off the waivers.
Stash a few in your team and see if they can back it up back to back, and then you might be able to grab that guy in your league who's not quite switched on and go, Hardwick's man, he's a new role. Like.
Yeah, that is a fair point. And then Josh Battle as well, like 104 points. Key defenders against the Dogs always go big. So that's probably just to keep streaming. But then again, like all these guys had 10 plus marks. Again, so like every one of those kind of defenders, halfbackers, like most of them are too good for the podcast. But yeah, they all scored well. Jack Ginnivan's having a very good season so far. He actually might even be in 2G, 4P territory. I haven't actually looked it up yet. But 113 points and only playing off like half forward, but pushing up so deep that he only actually earned 2 touches inside forward 50. And one of them was a goal. Like when I was watching it, and again, I don't remember a lot from this game, but he was getting like touches in the back pocket, like up the ground and stuff like that.
He's got full license to do whatever he wants sometimes.
He can just run wherever. Like,
and they've got Watson and Dylan Moore and Chol and such a crazy amount of forwards that can kick goals. Like, they would have 10 plus people who kick goals on the regular.
Yeah.
You see him everywhere, and he might spend 10 minutes in the back pocket just chipping it around, which is great for fantasy. So you've done that. I think he had a CBA as well, and it seems like, and you mentioned Watson, like they're running these guys through the midfield as well. Like they just kind of play anywhere. It's almost like total football. I would hate to know who's doing the magnets. It seems like it's a headache watching them play.
It's like someone goes in here and then someone fills the role there, and then
it's almost like they do their own rotations out there. They just go, Watto goes, I'm getting a bit sick of the.
Maybe it's even just like I'm feeling it. Like put me in there, let's see how I go, and then like if you go all right, we'll kind of keep rolling with it.
Which is unreal chem for a team to have. To be able to do that, to be able to, be that fluid. But
definitely. So it feels a bit of that. So like, guys like Guinea, even like Watson, they're like all playing in such different roles that it's going to be better for their fantasy scoring for sure. Mitch Lewis had 104 points, kicked the 3 goals, looked imposing up forward. Like it's the first time we really see him like this year, like just actually look like he's the main man inside forward 50. Like Gunston's more a lead up type guy. He's not a big solid, he's pretty athletic, Gunston. Whereas Mitch Lewis is starting to be like the big kind of boss enforcer.
Chol went down very early
that
in this
helps
game.
As well.
So
Chol
was crazy good on the Monday against Geelong.
He's been good this season.
But sort of, won in the game almost that last quarter. So Mitch Lewis just stepped up and said, all right, no Chol, it's my time to shine. And it's going to be interesting to see how they match it if, Chol and Lewis this week. The battle for who is the key forward.
And I think if Mitch Lewis can find some consistent, like he's always just been a player that is like just so injured, So if he can actually find some consistency, I think he'll be a good scorer for fantasy teams, like a good key forward anyway. Massimo D'Ambrosio had 102 points, 20 kicks, 1 handball. Like I haven't really noticed a change in his role or anything. Still out in the wing.
Maybe just a beneficiary of that halfbackers and defenders against the Dogs, sort of a little bit easy to score against. He does get quite deep on the wing, and he's used that long kick down the line. So it just finds a bit more of the ball. Or maybe if there's a lot of kicks coming out of D50, he's just the guy that's marking them. So
that's
a little bit of uptick this week.
And for the Dogs, they're pretty disappointing. The only one is Riley Sanders. He's just seen a huge uptick in CBAs.
Ed Richards had the injury last week, and Sanders had an absolute belter of a game. Ed Richards played majority of the game this week, but in the last quarter, I was just looking it up. Once Richards went down, Sanders had an uptick in his disposals as well. He had a big last quarter. So
So if he had 93 this week, and if Richards is out again, I'd expect this to continue.
Yeah, I'd
probably
expect
be
Sanders breakout to be legit, and Bevo can't sub him out this time.
Yeah, so he could be too good for the podcast next week. Just signed a 2-year deal, I think, with the Dogs.
Yeah, and he's got the misses in Melbourne. So
and but the thing about it is 2 years brings it to Tassie.
Yeah, he did say he was very tempted to go to Adelaide over the trade period, but he just got into a new relationship, and it would be unfair on the missus to leave.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
We got. If you're the Bulldogs, you're working on her. You're going, hey, can we get you to the Dogs? Can we get you locked into a long-term contract? How do we?
Not a bad.
How do we keep him here?
Not a bad sell. On to the Geelong versus West Coast game. Now, I did manage to watch some of this, but I fell asleep halfway through it. But anyway, this just describes the weekend. Like, I needed to have a little nap.
Sunday morning, it was midday game as well.
Needed to.
Not the most interesting fixture. It's not keeping you awake.
And my son really wanted to go to the Port. I was almost like, I could take or leave the Port game tonight because I was just so cooked from the weekend. But my son wanted to go so bad, so I had to tactically get myself up for the Port game. But anyway, Connor O'Sullivan, he had the 94 points. He's becoming a lot more consistent. I just don't know if he's going to be a player that's a 2G4P.
I think he is 2G4P purely on his age demographic.
True, yeah.
That you need to have him stashed in your keepers, because even if he's only going to average 80 or 75 this year, Tom Stewart is on the decline.
That's true.
And he's the next thing.
If he plays the exact same type of role, definitely. I just think at the moment, and you're right, it's probably because Tom Stewart is in the side, that Tom Stewart gets freed up a bit more because he's a bit older and probably can't do the lockdown stuff that he can do anymore.
But O'Sullivan is going to be top 5 defender of the next 10 years.
Yeah. No, I don't mind that call. Probably should be 2G, but he has to do that 380.
It's just the fact that people haven't caught on to that or waiting for it to be fully confirmed and locked in.
Yeah. Maybe he's a good play to go out on a trade or something. You're probably getting pretty cheap, just given that everyone sees him as like a taller key defender type, but he can score.
Yeah.
Jack Bowes is the other one, 82 points. Playing more on the wing this week after a heap of CBAs last week, but he's still scoring at the okay. My concern is sometimes Bowes has had defender status or looked like he's going to get forward status and stuff like that. He's going to probably be mid only for the time being, but if he's scoring okay, you take that. Yeah.
Yeah, he tears up the VFL when he goes back. The only issue is his role in the main side is just so wishy-washy sometimes.
I guess the biggest issue was he would get subbed out so often.
Yeah,
start as a sub.
But then he was coming back in and playing as a forward pocket at times.
Yeah.
Geelong, I don't know what it is, but
yeah.
They just...
But they seem to even Tanner Bruin, they seem to find, or Bruin, I think you actually pronounce it. They seem to just find a new role for some of these players. You're going to play here now. And you do that type thing. And it just kind of feels like it happens. Onto the West Coast side of things, though. Bailey J. Williams, I think we should probably call him. 115 points. Played well, but I will preface, and I think I said this last week, that Geelong are a very easy matchup for rucks with Edwards inside. And they did admit Flynn. But the big thing about Williams, and because I think he was the most claimed, I think it was, and then it was Hardwick. But anyway, the thing about Williams is he is listed as a forward, which is going to be super handy. It's just that over the years, we've seen Flynn and Williams kind of chop and change a lot. It doesn't take a lot for one of them to have a stinker at AFL and one of them to go good in the waffle, and they just swap them over. And again, I'll highlight that Geelong were just an easy matchup this week.
Flynn had an absolute stinker the week before, one of the all-time worst games he's played. I'm sure he'd be self-admitted on that. So, and then it's just Bailey J. Williams just go, how good is this? I'm in the AFL team. Rocking against...
rocking against a child, Mitch Edwards.
Yeah, rocking against Mitch Edwards and Sam De Koning. Two part-time ruckwins, really. He's got it very easy. I don't know who do West Coast have next week. That'd be an interesting one to look up. But they obviously picked up on a lot of waivers. But I wouldn't be surprised if Flynn has 40 disposals and 40 touches in the waffle.
Yeah, and then Bailey. I think Bailey will definitely play next week. But
play Freo next week. So
okay.
You've got the Darcy Jackson matchup.
I think
potentially even Mason Cox.
Did Darcy get injured?
I
think he came off during the game. So
just out of breath.
Yeah, maybe that was it. Willem Dersmar as well had 86 points. Only had the one CBA, but I don't think it matters for him. He's the kind of player that can just kind of do anything, really.
He's been a lot more impressive than I thought he was going to be.
100%. He's a Xavier Zane. He's going to be the same. I think I was wrong on that one. Hasn't done the auto qualification for Too Good for the Podcast, but he has done 3 80-plus scores this season, I think. And everyone's going to own him in keeper leagues because he was like such a high. So he might be one we can remove from the show doc in the future.
But in a lot of keeper league drafts this year or redrafts, he wasn't the first picked rookie.
He slid.
He was like fifth or sixth or seventh picked rookie.
Yeah.
And now when you look back, and maybe Farrow would be above him, but I'd say he's in the top 2. Like the amount of work he's doing in a team that's losing a lot. Like,
No, I don't. Oh, yeah, like 100%. I got it wrong on him, and
I think the whole fantasy community got it wrong on him in all the mock drafts and stuff. He wasn't the best rookie, but he shocked me a bit.
Definitely. Then Liam Duggan had 81 points. It's his first 80-plus score for a few weeks. I think the owners that are still hanging on to him just would have been happy with that one, but again, you'd want to see it more consistently. Like, no one's really scoring that well. Like, apart from Bailey Williams, like no one else got over 90 this weekend. So, yeah, not sure it's one that we can really hang our hats on too much. Onto the GWS Giants versus Richmond game. Didn't see a second of this one. I did some family time actually at this point. I took the family into the footy festival, let my son do all the things and games and stuff. So, actually earned back a few brownie points from the rest of the weekend. But yeah.
Watching a little bit of this one on the big screen at the live show before we jumped on.
Glad someone did. Nick Madden's probably the most impressive one in this one. There's some really strong, he's got 111 points. There's been some really strong opinions on Briggs in our Discord, a bit of arguments because like a lot of people have been saying like Briggs is going to get omitted soon. And then a few loud voices and they're like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. There's no way they're ever going to drop Briggs. Like, yes, he's like not scoring well in fantasy, but he's still doing enough. Rah, rah. Anyway, a couple weeks later, Briggs is dropped. Nick Madden. So there's like a bit of see told you so going on in the Discord, which I've been finding quite funny. But we did flag last week that Richmond were really easy for rucks at the moment.
Yeah, they played the debutant Oscar Hayes Brown and then Campbell Gray as the backup ruck.
Yeah,
so
with Nankervis out, they
feel like Briggs could have put 160 on the table here.
100%. Yeah, true. Like that. Well, we did flag it last week. If Briggs plays, he will probably have a big week. So Madden to have 111 points looks really impressive, but it might not just be a true representation of what he's going to do each week. And like the thing is though, like I probably would be a little bit worried if I own Briggs because like Madden does seem to be the ruck that suits the modern game a little bit better.
I feel like Madden is on waiver wires though, or if you got Briggs, you probably already got Madden.
That's the thing. So, if you're in keeper leagues, you handcuff those two.
Madden gets another week for sure. Obviously dominated, did well in his first crack back, but I feel like Briggs is probably just. He's a big boy. He's one of those big boys like a Cherry and a bigger body. So a rest isn't the worst thing for him.
Yeah, I agree.
And he'll probably come back and be better than he has in the first 6 games because he's had that week off.
Yeah, 100%. The other one in this for the Giants, there's a few more we'll talk about, I guess. Jack Stringer had 88 points. Now, he's doing contract year Jack Stringer. We're aware of this.
With us here, Jack Stringer.
But he had 22 CBAs.
Yeah, that's insane.
He was the 3rd most used midfielder. Like, that's full-time mid-type stuff. So I don't know what's going on. I know Cornelia got injured early in this game. I think he only played 40% time on ground. Cadman maybe back in, pushes him out of the forward line. I don't really know what's going on.
I wonder if they were trying to expose a Richmond mid, or
maybe it's probably his Richmond effect.
If they knew they were going to win a lot of the taps because the ruck set up
Jack Stringer go in there and bully.
That it was like Stringer's a great clearance player.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Oh no, it's probably worth looking at, and it's probably worth a waiver wire pick. I've put in a request for him in one of my leagues because like give him forward status.
Like we said, forwards they're thin. If you can find a forward who can.
If he's playing this role, if he's playing this role, it'd be 70 minimum most weeks. So we'll have to wait and see. Because it could just be Cadman back in as well with Hogan too. Like there's enough up there for them to work with. I don't know. So one to monitor over the next few weeks. Could just be also Richmond factor. Like easy team, go in there, have a run around, see how you go.
Yeah, and just we know we're going to win hit outs, and we need someone who can win the clearance because they don't have Tom Green at the moment, and Cornelio if he's injured,
that sort of stuff.
Toby Green goes in there to do the same thing. He goes in there because he's great at getting the clearance.
And that was the other thing. Green only had, I think, a handful of CBAs too, so maybe they kind of
he was sore. Who knows? Yeah, there could be something to read into it, but I think the risk is
worth the reward.
Yeah,
I agree. Toby Bedford came in. Everyone loves Toby Bedford because he will go do a tagging role and put up a decent score every second week. Plus, he looks like a good player because he's so fast and nippy and that sort of stuff. He has highlight moments. I think he is handy to own as a forward, but he didn't go into the midfield in this game. He probably will tag someone at this stage, but I reckon the 75 might just be a bit more of a Richmond factor at this point.
They've got the Swans next week, so watch a tag there. It'll be on a Heaney, it'll be on if someone's going to tag and you'll see him run with him, probably score well.
Yeah, so let's have a look at that. But I'm not sure if we're at the stage where we can say Toby Bedford is going to be a star just yet. Aaron Cadman had 70 points. I'm just happy to see him back because I reckon he could be one of the key forwards who kind of pop this season. And like I said, probably helps Hogan a little bit as well because he's been really disappointing to start off. And I think Hogan did have like a 64 this week, which is actually good for him. That's actually fieldable as your F5 at the moment. Which
I've
is
watched a few GBS games live
Yeah.
actually, and I noticed, I'm going to butcher it,
Grzycki, something like that, yeah.
And then Grzycki hasn't really been helping Hogan as a key forward. He's sort of, I like Cavan because he's going to help take a defender off him. He's going to help find some space for him or get out of his way.
Yeah.
But I feel like the stringer, Grzycki, whatever he's
Yeah.
it's been a clash for Hogan. It's not been a good chem.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, like, hopefully that kind of comes in. But for Cabin himself, I do think he can be a dominant key forward as well. So, like, I think it's a good... He's probably just one to have a look at if in deeper leagues where you need a forward, for sure. Not a lot to talk about from the Tigers. Taranto was the only one who scored in the 90s. And I reckon as the season goes on, we might see some of these lesser teams score way poorer because they all seem to have played the other poor teams in the first few rounds. And now they're all starting to play the actual good teams. And it's starting to probably show their proper prowess. Like for someone like Taranto, it might he's had a great start to the season, but it might start to taper here, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm just looking through the players. Even like the young guys like Trainer have been scoring pretty handy lately, and they play a good team and they drop off, and so
even some of the senior players, like you've lost them and stuff at like 50s and things.
Tyler
like that. So,
Sonzi. I've seen these guys getting picked up in leagues, like Trainers and Sonzis and things like that.
Might be a reflection of their fixture over the first few weeks more than
having a little bit easier than
On to the final game of the round. What did you make of the...
Well, I've seen your notes here, but before you even get stuck into it, I just want to put Darcy Byrne-Jones on the list.
Yeah, 100%.
He's back to All-Australian Darcy Byrne-Jones.
Oh, don't have him list. Yeah,
you definitely
needs to be on the list. I missed that one.
Biggest miss ever.
Yeah, it was a big miss.
He scored 80. I'm trying to think in the last squad, he probably didn't have much of it because I did check the scores at halftime and he was on 50 odds. So but he's back to playing off halfback.
Yeah, that's
where Darcy Byrne-Jones does his best work.
Yeah, we did flag that last week. I did just talk about it on the Wave Wire podcast. So it's strange that I didn't have money. I must have just forgot to put it down. Playing off that halfback role, there was a little bit of concern. Like I think with Todd Marshall coming back into the side, there was like, he might spend a bit more time in defence. The one thing that really concerns me is the fact that Miles Bergman hasn't gone into the midfield yet, and he's still floating around half-back.
Something's going wrong there.
I think the intention still will be eventually to get him into the midfield, so that probably helps Byrne-Jones stay down back. But I think the fact that we saw Marshall come into the side, Byrne-Jones stayed in defence, and he still scored well.
He's on 67 at halftime.
Beautiful. Yeah, I did check
Ended
that.
with 80. Only had the 4 touches in the second half, but that's when the rain came down and the game sort of turned back, into Port's way. So it wasn't sort of sitting in St Kilda's halfback flank that much. Yeah.
So he's definitely one to be picking up off waiver wires because he'll probably be too highly owned after this week. And
I got him last week. I'm very happy with it.
I think I got him in a league as well. But yeah, I think even like I was with a lot of the classic creators, and they were like, we're picking him up in our classic teams next week.
Yeah, man, he's so cheap compared to what he had put out in the past. So.
Yeah. Well, the halfback role suits him, and like I said on the Waiver Wire podcast before, he's an All-Australian halfback flanker.
Yeah, All-Australian Byrne-Jones. We got him back.
So.
So.
I don't know if it's a true representation of what him in, but
we just got to pray that all Port forwards stay healthy, so they don't have to put him up there. I feel that's what ruined him in the first place was they lost the Pau Pepper and they lost a few injuries.
But it could be someone like Watkins can play that forward lockdown.
He has been a little bit.
Yeah. So it might.
And there was word that Willem Drew might even play some forward lockdown. So
So who knows? Alira. Sorry, we'll go back to in the list now. Kane Farrell had 97 points. I think he was 1 point off automatically too good for the podcast, so I'm just going to tick him off. I think it was after the Essendon game or the West Coast game, we were saying that Port just needed to get in his hands more of halfback because he's their best kick. And just to the point where Jackson Mead was taking kickouts over him and what are you doing? And now Jackson Mead's out of the side, all that sort of stuff is going to change.
I don't know if you want to bring up your Instagram graphic again, but I see a lot of defenders on your list, and St Kilda also another very easy team for defenders to score against.
They're top 5 against definitely medium defenders as well.
Medium defenders.
So,
we have no lockdown small forwards. We play Liam Ryan and Jack Higgins who run one way towards goal, but
they're not
the
defensive.
other. So I feel like this fixture is going to suit Farrell and DBJ.
Yeah, 100%. That is something to think about. Well, even Alir. I think St Kilda aren't as easy for. They're still top 6 for key, top 5 for key, 6 for key defenders. But Alir, he's averaging 81 at the moment. He had 11 marks in this game. States don't really have a lot of standout key forwards at the moment, especially with King out.
It's Sharman and Mason Wood playing up there sometimes.
So it probably does make sense, but you can't really deny the fact that he is taking a lot of marks, because the ball's in Port's defence a lot at the moment as well. I wouldn't. It's not sustainable, but you might pick the weeks where he is playing against a side that does have lesser key forwards, and he could take a few more intercept marks. back there as well. So
I like how consistent he normally is as well. He doesn't really have,
yeah,
unless he's had a bit of injury in the last 24 months, but
yeah,
he doesn't really have those 30s or those 40s that you see from key defenders.
He at least put up
sort of
50 to 60 for you.
Yeah, bottoms out at about that like high 50s, which is handy. It doesn't ruin your week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. I've got a few guys ruining my weeks at the moment. Logan Evans at 85 points. He's popping up for some good scores this season. He's been up and down a little bit. And my concern is kind of like what we were talking about before. Like, Port have really only played shit teams or teams that are fantasy friendly for defenders like the Saints. So like it could be a bit of that, but at the moment it's hard to deny him because he's putting up 80s most weeks.
I was going to say before when I didn't want to shoot your list down when I was talking about the defenders being good for Kane Farrell, but he's just a man we know what he can do, but he hasn't found the form. So sometimes a fixture like this can get him back into form. And
definitely.
Kicks him back into gear and they go, we can actually do that. We can kick this game plan. And
well, I keep mentioning like his first season when he came in that mid-season draft and he was like a pretty viable option for most teams. Like I think he played in Classic. So we picked him up.
He was
Classic,
fantastic that first year.
Yeah, so hopefully he can
but
kind of continue
I know
that.
Port Adelaide didn't win the game, and when I mean like kick them into form, I mean like they just get a bit more of the ball in their hands and get a bit of confidence in their own game. So
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Ewan McKinley had 85 points, and yeah, again, Saints are a fantasy friendly team for wingers. They're actually kind of fantasy friendly across the board, which kind of does make sense. But fourth easiest team for wingers to score against. Probably not ready to kind of trust a 6-gamer like just yet, but it was his first 80+ score. He's had 3 scores in the 70s. I'm not ruling him out, but I'm also saying like it's probably just not yet an option. That's all. Joe Richards at 81 points. Kind of plays that high half forward role well, like just a lesser player than like your Dylan Moores type things, but plays a similar type role. But they get enough good like the footy in good matchups to score well. He's averaging 75 this season. I think the only issue with Joe Richards is like you forget that he's not a young kid. Like he's going to be 27 this year, I think, as well. So he's like maybe not one to chase for the future or anything like that, but a good like I'm playing him as like my F4 at the moment.
I've got him in pretty much all of my keeper leagues across the board because like I was saying with Aaliyah, he's just consistent. He's not going to give you 140s or 130s, but he doesn't really drop below 55.
Yeah, correct. So
he's quite a consistent 55 to 90 sort of range.
Yeah,
I feel like he gets up the ground enough to do enough each week.
He's one that doesn't rely on goals as well.
He's just the actual reminds me a lot of Zach Butters the way he plays.
Yeah.
Early days when we saw Zach on the half forward flank, gets up very high, doesn't really impact the scoreboard too much.
Yeah, I agree. Hugo Garcia moving on to the Saints had 106 points. He was on Butters for some of the night, which I think kind of led him to the footy. I think it's also just a player where the conditions just suited him.
It was wet. Well. He's a big tackler.
Yeah,
he's a big
inside guy.
Big works on the floor very well.
Kicked the goal too, which was good to see. But just a monitor on that one for now. Mateus Philippe had the 78 points. I think he's had a few niggles so far this year. I remember seeing him on the exercise bike a lot in games and things like that. He only had the 2 CBAs and kicked 2 goals. I'm just hopefully they haven't resigned him as being a forward. That's my biggest fear with Mateus Philippe. He needs to be a midfielder, I think, to be a big scorer. Even though he did win this game.
Anytime he gets close to getting a midfield spot, he just gets injured. That's the issue. He did have an injury. It was round 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And he somehow got up for it. He was meant to miss like 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But played the next week, so it was a little bit better than,
and maybe that's what's been keeping him down, really.
Yeah, I feel like now that he's got the injury niggle, he's going to have to play forward for the next 10 weeks until the spot in the midfield opens back up.
Yeah, maybe. And then Hunter Clark came into the side. Big, good VFL form recently. 75 points. Did use the ball pretty poorly. I think it was more across halfback, wasn't he, in this game? But yeah, or I just remember him getting kicks there. Not sure if he holds his spot long enough to be useful for us, but he's always I think he's always been a good points per minute player. A lot of people kind of hold on to that.
He's been annoyingly close to just being very good, but he's probably going to spend he's probably spent a lot of time in your pod over the years. Actually,
yeah, definitely, yes,
being not 2G 4P, but very close to it. So just be consistently working his way into your list
for sure. Let's get on to the listener questions and we'll wrap this show up. That's it for the round review. At TTQ03, any role changes for Will Graham over the past 2 weeks? Been solid without spectacular. Does he have fantasy chops? I think we floated that there's been no Humphrey, no Petrarca since he's been come into the side. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that one, yeah?
Yeah. I would also just thinking back to last week against Melbourne, he was playing quite wingy, half-backy, half-forward role where the scoring was very good for a lot of those styles of players. So maybe we just got a little bit of excitement from that and we just got to, ride the wave.
Yeah, for sure. At GoatTings25 wants to know, is Bruin set for the midfield or will he be somewhere else that gets moved around? Now, did he get defender status in the position changes?
Yeah, he did.
He did?
Yeah.
Because, He's been so weird. I think he's played about probably 3 games where he was like full-time defender.
Actually,
This time,
he's not defender on my app.
nah, then he probably isn't. Yeah.
No.
He's played, I think, about 2 or 3 games where he's been full-time half-back, but then he's been wing for some of the games. And this game, he was full-time midfielder. So I think he's just someone that gets moved around. Like Geelong is so crazy, man. Like, they're kind of like Hawthorn. Like, so many players can kind of play everywhere for them. Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, they have their 5 or 6 ones that they don't touch. So you got like a Jezza and a Shannon Neal.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And Tom Stewart. And then
Yeah.
around that, their whole team's pretty fluid. So.
Yeah, 100%. So, like, yeah, I think he is someone that just gets moved around. But, like, it wouldn't surprise me if he does have, like, a 4-week stretch where he is on the halfback and it just gives him enough to be that 30% and get that DPP, you know? And then Hugh Mann asks, will Brian be a viable ruck option to score for the Bombers when he
mentioned
returns?
this earlier that
Yeah.
maybe the first few weeks we concede low TOGs, but
All right, look, the type of player he is, and we've seen it VFL consistently and even at AFL level last year, for the amount of time he played on ground and how well he scored, he's been great. So if he can just get that time up on ground.
his VFL stats were good.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's nothing saying that he's lost his form or he's lost it in his year off from the game.
Yeah, and that was his first game back too. He still scored a 70 odd, I reckon, and low tog.
I would
so-
watch it. I definitely like the idea of watching those first 2 to 3 games. He could be one where Lachlan McAndrew mid-year, if you have him in your classic teams, and you know, good little downgrade option to Brian. But yeah, I think those first 2 to 3 with Blackiston, with Peter Wright, he probably play a bit of a lower time on ground.
Yeah, I agree.
So
yeah,
you get a little look at it first.
yeah, I think by the end of the season he builds up. We had an anonymous question. He goes, "How did Bergman go from being the preseason hype guy to a spud fantasy pick?" What are your thoughts?
Just new coach, going back to, he was playing midfield at the back end of last year, and there
Yeah.
was those games where he played in the middle, he'd score well. Then if he went back to half-back, he'd score very poorly. And there was
Yeah.
games where he was doing it mid-game, I remember in the back end of last year.
I also just don't think he's 100% right. Like, he did that foot injury before round 1, missed the 2 preseason games, came back, played round 1, rolled his ankle, missed a game. Like, and it just hasn't been given the opportunity in the midfield, which kind of doesn't make sense given that Porch probably should have rolled him through there a few times. But, like, I think he's sometimes a bit like, I think they kind of want to use him as a bit of a run with, like, defensive midfielder. And I think there might be something going on with his foot that's kind of hampering from just keeping up with, you know, the
I just
solid
think his
midfielders.
role isn't what it was last year as
Yeah.
well. We saw the late change in the year to the midfield, and it looked
Yeah.
really exciting. It looked like he's going to be, you know, genuine.
Yeah,
100
I
plus
honestly
averaging.
think he just can't move at the moment properly, and so he's kind of trying to play like a float in the hole type defender type thing. It's just not working for him. He's not getting that midfield
Come
time.
on, Curry, let him free. You've given us DBJ off the halfback.
Oh yeah,
Let's correct the wrongs and let Bergman in the middle. So
yeah. Hopefully it happens soon. Like hopefully he kind of just builds up strength or whatever it is that he needs to kind of go in there a bit more. Because it doesn't make sense that it was just so obvious. He was training all their preseason. He was killing it last year when he was in there. Doesn't make sense they're not using him. Like, I don't think Kari's that much of a silly coach just to not use him there. I think there's something else going on. That's all. Sam Kitchen wants to know, he wants you to pick one from these waiver pickups for the week. Angus Anderson, Jarman Impey, Cooper Trembath, Aaron Cadman, Nick Haynes, Peter Wright, Tom Papley, Jake Lieber. Who are you picking out of those?
All right, I will just order the top 2, and number 1 is Anderson, just purely because of we don't know his ceiling, and we've seen his first game was a 90-odd score.
Yep.
So I feel like his ceiling could be a 95 averaging mid.
Yeah,
It could
eventually.
be. We don't know
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is yet. If he keeps dishing that up, is great. The next one will be Jarman Impey, just purely based on previous history. Consistency. He's one of the better consistent defenders to have in a keeper league because he doesn't really have many bad games.
Great minds think alike, checkers, because that's exactly what I was thinking. If I had the choice, I'd be going Angus Anderson 1, Jarman Impey 2. A lot of role changes with the guys listed below. Papley just pops up.
If I was to
in
pick
and
a
out.
third, it's Trembath purely on ceiling as well. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like when you're rolling the dice here, you might as well roll it and pick someone who can go big. So.
Yeah. All right, that wraps it up for this week. Thanks heaps for joining us, checkers. I know it's been a big weekend, and I think we had some concerns over both of our voices yesterday.
I'm surprised we got through.
Yeah, we've done well.
Been smashing the butter menthols, got a pocket full of them. So
Well, I appreciate getting yourself up for this week and looking after yourself and doing the right things off the track.
Yeah.
To get yourself up for the podcast. I know you said it's a bit quieter between now and finals, but you got a few things, anything in the works that we should keep our
we're
eyes
working
out
on the
for?
Div 12 Resi's game and stuff like that.
Content will be coming out.
Yeah, it'll
for
be
that sort of
content.
stuff.
We start footy this week when we get back to Melbourne.
Yeah.
I won't be playing. I'm going to Perth this week, so
Yeah.
it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
We're going to watch Buddy play local footy. So
Sweet. On the content train.
yeah, I'm going to I've never been to Perth before, so going
Oh,
to
sweet.
Derby, and I'm going to watch Buddy play footy. So.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. No, it's a nice city.
More of an
Yeah.
enjoyment holiday. It might sound like a work holiday if it's footy related.
Yeah.
But no, it's.
I think there's a DT talk show over there.
I have a
this
feeling
week,
there's a bit happening because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Derby's the the derby's on. So
yeah, it should be.
I know Dylan Friends is going to be in town. I saw DT talk around the trap. So
yeah.
It feels like gather around 2.0. Everyone's
Might
going
be.
to Perth.
Yeah, let's. I might have to book a flight. No, actually, no.
They're expensive ass.
I think I'd come home. The locks would be changed if I did. So maybe not. But yeah, no. Thanks heaps for coming on the show. Get around our stuff at Keeper League Pod on all the socials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get around the Discord if you want to kind of join the community a bit more, and that's the place I'm most active with the listeners. And get around the Marmalade Boys on all the social media.
Yeah, but the Keeper League Instagram's been popping off this year.
It's been going well, yeah.
The new graphic system, I've been liking everything.
It's funny how if you put more effort into something, you kind of see the rewards. Like, It's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I feel like someone who spends a lot of time with the footy on the weekends, I don't get to keep up with a lot of news.
Yeah.
MCG Wi-Fi and just stuck in and understand. So when I see these graphics, they sort of
help you out.
Save me the hour of trolling through stats. So
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
And just in a good place to actually see them. It's very easy just to open up the Instagram app and find it. So,
very handy to look at on the Thursday arvo.
No, well, thank you very much for the feedback. I'll keep doing it then. Anyways, thank you for listening once again. Again, apologies, things might be a bit slow this weekend, but we'll get them out eventually. And we'll talk to you next week. See you later.